Welcome to Life-Changing Challengers, the podcast where passion meets purpose. I'm Brad Minus, your host, guiding you through stories of transformation and triumph, from endurance feats to overcoming adversity. Our guests defy the limits and inspire action. Ready to ignite your desire and incinerate your barriers? Join us. Your journey to the extraordinary begins now. All right, and are back with a very special guest, Dr. Lynn Carey. She is a chiropractor. She's an author. She's a coach. She wrote a book called My Journey to Grace, Shattering Mainstream Illusions and Creating My Desired Life. She also has some master classes and she does some coaching, and we're going to hear her story tonight. So Dr. Lynn Carey, welcome, and how are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me, Brad. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's an honor and a privilege, and thank you so much. So, as I ask everyone, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, what was the compliment to your family, and what was it like to be Lynn Carey as a kid?
Yeah, so I'll take you all the way back. My parents were married 21 years before they ever had their first baby, which was me. So my mom was about 41. And back in the 70s, I was born in 74. That was unheard of. They scared my mom that I was going to have complications, sickness, she might not carry full term. So it was very stressful. But my mom just thought she couldn't have kids. And I came along. And I definitely have always, I think, beat to my own drum. Like what I think about, I was like a miracle baby. So that was the beginning of it. And I'm an only child. My parents were older. So I always felt kind of a generation gap a little bit because my mom is definitely old school Italian Catholic. So I felt like I had to, especially as I got older, tell her one thing and do what I wanted. Just because I didn't feel like hearing all that yes in my ear about everything. I didn't want the judgment. It was always there. The guilt, the obligation, and the judgment was always there.
You want to talk about guilt? I'm an only child from a Jewish family. You have not heard guilt.
It's in the genes.
Yeah.
So I question things. My father lost a business. I think he was a failed entrepreneur many times by the time I came along. And I felt I think right when I was probably like 4 or 5 is when he lost his last business and he had to go take a job that he did not like. He was working a night shift at a bakery. So I think I took on that vibe. I didn't have to consciously understand, but I grew up where it's just like life felt hard. My mom worked all the time. My dad worked. My dad slept during the day. I just felt like his life force was gone. I couldn't say those words, but like he wasn't vibrant. And my mom just was busy all the time working. And I didn't feel like it was ever even right to relax. I became like, you just had to be working, just hard. So I was like A student, working my butt off in school. And then my mom's father had started a sub shop. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and it's pretty well known there. And everybody worked in the sub shop. So my mom worked in her office during the day. At night, she'd go to the sub shop. And it was just all this work. And if you were to rest or play or do anything that was not essential, it wasn't looked well upon. You were like lazy, no good, blah, blah, blah. So I always questioned, there's got to be more to life than this. Nobody questioned this. Like everybody was just busy all day long, but it was still hard. I didn't see joy. They talked like there was never enough, even though I had everything I needed. It was always that poverty talk, consciousness. And I just thought there had to be more to life. And then my father eventually, he got sick when I was 11 and he died when I was 12. They say it was cancer. That's a whole nother story. I really believe it was broken dreams. It was a broken heart. When you're living a life that is just dread every day, you lose your life for it. So he died when I was 12. And I was just angry that he left me. I felt like he left me in hell. He went to heaven. In my religion, they talk about heaven being this utopia. I'm like, well, he went to the better place because I think we're living in hell. I truly believe that. So I had that going on. And then I would always question everything about life. And my mom would just say, this is the way it is, you'll see. And so eventually, within 2 years, maybe less than 2 years, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. So right when I was going into high school. So my dad died when I was in 7th grade. Summer after 8th grade, I had scoliosis. And I found it. Like one waistline was gone. You're going through all these changes anyway. And I felt a bump in my back. I didn't have pain, but it just looked weird.
Right.
And so I told my mom. She brought me to the pediatrician. He said, we have to send you to the orthopedic, somebody who specialized in scoliosis. And I was already labeled severe. And knowing what I know now, the emotional causes is like you're being pulled in 2 directions. That's why your spine is going in opposite directions. I had that with my father in heaven, my mother on earth, my mother telling me this is the way life is. And there was something in me saying there has to be something more to this life, but this sucks. So I was diagnosed with this scoliosis and I just did what the medical world said. That's all we knew. And I ended up having Harrington rod surgery, which is where they put the metal rods in your spine for scoliosis. And the surgery itself was a success, according to them. But I was in pain or sick all the time afterwards. I had it when I was 15. Like a year to the day of my surgery, I got the chicken pox, a really severe case, strep throat all the time. I pain down my leg that I couldn't walk. That'd be on and off, but nobody could help me. So it was like this period of years where I'd go to different doctors and I kept saying, why do I keep getting sick? Nobody ever addressed the surgery, that they butchered your spine. Maybe that's why, but no, that's in their world normal. I went to therapy, physical therapy. It didn't help. Painkillers didn't work. Antibiotics, I think, just destroyed my system. The symptoms just kept getting worse. So when this is on top of, I already probably was depressed, like all this going on, especially like not having meaning in life, working so hard, working myself to the bone in every way, working.
Yeah. So just stepping back just real quick. So first of all, you were saying that you're getting pulled in 2 different directions. So were you saying that your mom was like, this is life, but you were saying, no, there's more to it. And that was the duality that you were feeling? Okay. Just wanted to clear that up. That's just fine. Because it made perfect sense. It made perfect sense to me. And so you're talking about, so this had to be like what, 1990, 1991 when you had the surgery?
Yep. 1989. Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we're really starting that's a medical, like healthcare was starting to boom at that point. So interesting that you had these rods. So and no one ever mentioned the fact that it might have been, they butchered your spine. Yeah. But maybe the rods, because those are metal rods, right? Like metal.
I ended up, I'm blessed in the sense that they took the rods out when I was 15.
Oh,
yeah. I had them for almost 2 years. And the only thing I could think of, I think the surgeon, I was probably complaining about pain. I don't remember what phase I was in exactly why he decided to take them out, because in the majority of cases, they leave the rods in for life. And that is so awful. I just can't, they still do this surgery today. And these poor people have rods in for life. So I think it was because I was feeling pain. He said, well, you have a skinny frame. You might feel the rods. Maybe it's better they come out. And I didn't really want more surgery. I just did what he suggested. So I had getting the rods out was a lot easier than getting them in. So I'm grateful that they came out. But I still was in pain. I still was sick all the time. I still,
Okay, so that wasn't it then. Yeah, I just was thinking about these metal rods going in. I'm like, oh my God. And all the symptoms make it totally clear towards metal poisoning. So that's what I was thinking about. But obviously that wasn't it. So it was something to do with the spine. So, all right. So you get the rods out. Now, how did you feel as far as okay, so you just felt like you're getting sick. But were you standing up straighter? Did your spine end up going back to the way it was?
Nope. It's still crooked. I still have a bump in my back to this day. And they removed a lot of the spinous processes, which is all the tips going down your spine, because they want to fuse my spine. So my spine feels really weird if you touch it to this day.
Huh. Interesting. But at that point, you still were getting sick. You still were getting strep throat and all that stuff, even after the rods came out. Okay.
Run down and I ate right. I was working out. I was doing things to, at that point, I think, just what most people do to try to get healthy is they go to the gym or they watch their diet. It was more of a vanity thing too, especially in my late teens. I would do all those things. And because I had a perfectionist thing going on. So I was working on all areas that I thought were proper at the time. But I just wasn't. When I got to college, I just was trying to figure out what to do with my life because I was told you go to college to be successful in life. And someone told me to look into chiropractic and I had no idea what that was. I read the pamphlet on it and it said, the power that made the body heals the body was their philosophy. And I thought, why hasn't anyone said that to me? All these years, I would ask the doctors, why do I keep getting sick? And they would just write me another prescription. Nobody had answers for me. And I used to think they don't know. But I didn't verbally say that to anybody because they would think I was nuts. So the philosophy spoke to me. And it was the first time I felt like a God call, like that call, like a knowing.
Yeah.
And I just went to chiropractic school and I started getting adjusted there, started learning about how the body heals, and it's transformed my life. It was not overnight. That was the beginning of the journey of transforming my life and really opening up the spiritual path.
Wow. So actually getting adjusted, getting your spine put back in the right way with manual manipulation, which is more natural than obviously prescriptions and medicine and everything else. And you started to feel better as far as sickness and everything else, along with feeling better in your back?
It was a process. I would say it was probably a good year before I got out of chronic pain. But I was also told if you were like this for years, sometimes it takes time for the body to reverse everything that it's gone through, which made sense to me. I'm like, I only have time. At that point, the blessing was I had nothing to lose because I really just thought I was going to have to live like that. I was 19 years old. No one had answers for me. I already went to so many different medical doctors, tried different things, been through this journey of no answers. And that was probably the biggest gift because now this door opened up of your body heals itself. There's a life force within you that's always working to make itself new. Being around people who lived this life, believed this life, showed me how it works. I'm like, this makes total sense. Like the dots just started to connect. And then I was getting the body work done and it starts to clear out the stress. And you can imagine the stress from having the 2 surgeries, you got scar tissue, trauma, all that stuff's in there. It starts to clear out. But it takes time. And I just remember everything really started to click for me when I lost the fear. When I realized I can get better, that there's nothing stopping me from getting better. And I didn't have the fear that I wouldn't get better. That was a turning point for me in my healing journey. And that's where the chronic pain started to go away. And I probably started to look at a little bit more, what's my emotional and mental connection going on stress-wise with the physical symptoms that I'm feeling.
Wow. That's a great connection to make, especially at that time, right? Because now we're talking, 95, 96?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that we didn't really have all the woo-woo stuff yet. There wasn't a yoga studio on every other corner. People weren't talking about, oh, you need to meditate every day. Obviously, we had the Buddhist teachings. That always helped, right? And that was a part of it. But not back then. It wasn't, you searched for stuff. It wasn't like hitting you in the face like it does now. So that's really cool. What is the first thing you did to start looking into that connection, that emotional mindfulness connection?
I think the first thing that happened was I had a chiropractor. He was a chiropractic student who I was getting adjusted by a professor when I first got to chiropractic school because everybody was afraid to touch my spine. I was like specimen. I was like, oh my God, look what they did to her spine. Can you imagine? Everybody was horrified. So I really wasn't like, a lot of students will practice on each other. I was not a case for that because of my spine. So I was having one of the chiropractic professors was working on me, but she was only adjusting my hips. She was afraid to touch the middle of my spine. And I was working we had clubs at school where students would come together and they would study under certain chiropractors for certain techniques. And we'd learn the technique. It was getting very specific on the spine. It was great. It was really great. It was where true chiropractic happened, more so than the classroom, if you ask me. But I was a part of that. And I remember one of the senior students, he said, she's not working on these areas. This is the protocol. Do you want me to try? And I was like, yeah, what do I have to lose? Let's do it. And he always went with his hands, what he felt. And he started to adjust what he felt, not stuck in the mindset of all the clinical, what it should be, but he went with his gut, his hands, what he felt. And I started having changes big time. Like I could feel the difference. And I probably had a year of him working on me, and then he was graduating. And I remember the last time he adjusted me, my back went out. And I go, this doesn't make sense. Because I was terrified of losing my chiropractor. I'm like, what am I going to do without him? And I realized he adjusted me back. My back went out. He was the foundation who I trusted. And I thought, I'm afraid of losing him. And who am I going to trust with my spine? And that was the first click that I was like, oh, the emotions are a big part of the healing process. That's what made me start paying attention.
Oh my God, that's huge. I just quick anecdote for myself. I don't usually do a lot of anecdotes on myself. I don't do an episode on my own. So I always just give a little bit every time. When I was in high school, I was injured, cervical injury during a wrestling match, right? So that's what started in Western medicine, went to emergency room, blah, 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 gave me medicine. And then they said, hey, well, you should try chiropractic. And at that time, so that was 82, 83, something like that. And no, I'm sorry, 85, 86, something like that. And chiropractors weren't known all that well, right? But I remember him, he's okay, you're going to just go down to your boxers, whatever, bring in shorts. And he did just that. It was all manual, and he would feel it. And then little pops, he would do my neck. And it was a process. And yeah, and I got better really fast. I started wrestling. After that, I started wrestling 4 weeks later. I got back on the mat. So, but what's interesting is I remember those manipulations. I remember those adjustments. So later in life, when I started needing a chiropractor again, and I was almost searching. I had to go searching for someone that actually would do that, because most people, they would go bang, put me on my side. That one maneuver where you hold the shoulder back and you push down on the knee and you're twisted, and they go click, and then they go to the other side, click, do your neck, and you're done. I was like, I've been through this before. This is not right. It took me a long time to find somebody who would literally go down and feel and then pop things in, or they use, I guess what they call it now, is it called an Arthur stem? You know what that is?
No, I've never been a fan of the equipment. I always like the hand adjustment.
Oh, great.
But what you're talking about. See,
yeah.
A lot of people don't know the difference. And that's why I'm like, you have to find a good chiropractor. My profession has a lot of crazy stuff going on in it. That's a whole, probably we could talk about, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, at least you knew what was good. Because what if you only had the second scenario first? You might be like, I probably won't do that again. I think about that. What if you had a bad chiropractic adjustment? You're like, well, that doesn't work. You didn't know to find the good one.
Yeah, exactly. So just to step back for a minute, just to be clear, because I'd like to know myself. So first of all, where did you go to school? Where did you go to undergrad?
I went to University of Delaware for 3 semesters, and then I transferred to Life University. It was actually Life College in Marietta, Georgia. And while I was there, it became a university. But I was able to finish my undergrad, and I got a bachelor's in nutrition there alongside of my doctorate of chiropractic.
So, all right, just alongside so what is the requirements for a doctor of a chiropractic?
2
what did you have to go
through? And then it's 3.5 years year round chiropractic school.
Okay, so it's 3.5 years. So it's just like medical school. So there's medical schools.
It's like 40 hours a quarter. So it's not like people take 12 to 16 credits a semester. Ours is a quarter. Like it's full time.
Wow, that's crazy. So after the 3.5 years, it's not like you can go put out a shingle, right? Now you got to do some sort of.
Oh, that's what I did. Because I'm crazy. No, that's what I did, because I didn't like how other people. I wanted to bring chiropractic to my hometown. I'm like, people need to know what I know, but I don't like how these other chiropractors are practicing. I want to do it on my own. So I'm like, on fire. But then I opened my practice, and I'm like, okay, no one told me about money or business. now what? So that was a whole journey.
Oh, I can imagine. Just the idea, so 3.5 years year round, because I thought, yeah, because some of the chiropractors out here, of course, that's old school chiropractic, right? But like a friend that I just got back, so he spent a year doing he spent 6 months doing internship. Then he got hired on there as like an assistant or junior chiropractor before he finally put out his own shingle. But yeah, I think that's incredible. But just the idea. So here it is. For all those people out there that think that chiropractic is not real, first of all, somebody that's been a chiropractic patient and became a chiropractor, that's first of all. But second of all, they go to school just as long, if not longer, than the original medical school. Yes, you're not required, or I don't know anymore, but when you were going through, you didn't required to do a residency, then a specialty, and all that stuff. But you're taught well enough that you can walk out of chiropractic school.
We had clinic in that we were required to have so many hours it was part of our degree. Right. So we had that while we were in school.
Now, during the clinic, were you hands-on?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, and that's not like medical school. They have their clinical, but a lot of it is, from what I can tell, I've been employed by 2 teaching hospitals. And a lot of times we're talking about like medical students still in the 3 years of medical school, they walk on and observe, not the residences or the interns. Those guys actually, they get taught to be and then hands-on, but it doesn't get like where you are 3.5 years and you're putting in the clinical and you're doing hands-on. It's like doing it both at the same time, which is really cool. Yeah. Makes it easier. Okay. So you put your shingle out in Delaware and you're starting to get clients.
Yeah.
How did you?
Yeah. And I refused to sell my soul. I would not do insurance. I would not, because I didn't want them to dictate how do they want me to practice. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not prognosing. I'm not telling people. I am not one of those that you have to be here 3 times a week. You don't have to do this, that. I was like, how do you feel? I could give you a guidance. Like it might take a little bit to start getting your body in tune with the adjustment, depending on how walled off you are, how not in touch you are. But really, I was like, you decide when you want to come, how you feel. I wanted people to be in tune with how they felt. I wanted them to start becoming their own best doctor. That was always my vision. And I did it for 18 years. But I just saw that a lot of people, I just outgrew the idea of practice because I realized I wanted people to do the inner work. I can adjust you all day long. But if you're going to a job that you hate every day, if you're going to a bad relationship, if you're not working on the stuff that's eating you alive and in the brain, you're not going to have ultimate well-being. I don't care how clean you eat. I don't care how often you work out, get your body work done. If you're not cleaning up the rest of your life, if you're not following your passion, your joy, if you're not living your best life, what's the point?
I get that. And I know you're right. And absolutely, 100%. And you started learning that with that dichotomy that you had that you felt probably was the reason for your scoliosis. Do you see a lot of that in your practice? Did you find that like clients would come back, your repeat clients or your heavier repeater clients, maybe your clients that did come see you 3 times a week were people that were having issues at work or relationship issues versus the people that would come in once a week and they'd get it done?
Yeah, definitely. There was definitely people who were on the wellness path and they would come in, but a lot of people would be like, oh, this symptom or pain or whatever it was just happened. And I'd be like, well, are you more stressed than usual? What's going on? I would just dig a little bit. And they were like, no, everything's the same. And then they would start telling me about their day. I was stressed just listening to it. And I thought, they're not connecting. That's become normal for them. That high stress life has become their normal. So of course their body's going to break down because they're not stopping. That's the only thing that's going to get their attention. To stop that rat race wheel, that light that's spinning around busy, to get their attention, your body's got to break down.
That's pretty cool. That, like, just the thought of it, right, is so coming from the athlete part of me is I'd go to the chiropractor and I knew it like right away. Like, you adjust me, but I knew because being an athlete and being a coach of athletes, I know that adjustment's not the end all be all. You put me back in the place that I need to be. Now it's my time to go to work to make sure that I'm getting the muscles around that will keep me in that position to where the next time I go to my chiropractor, go to you, then it's going to be, you have to do an adjustment, but it's a much easier adjustment because I've got the muscles in line. Now you take it, and now I'm starting to make a connection where what you're talking about is, okay, so not only as an athlete or as someone do I need to do that work, get my core strength so the muscles around the areas that you've adjusted are strengthened enough to keep it there. But now I got my head that I need to keep it free of stress or stress-related relief, things that I need to clear out of my, let's call it the basement, clear out of my basement so that things can run cleaner and I can keep my adjustment that way as well. Is that kind of where you're going with this?
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, I like that. I like that scenario that you gave. That's great. I would ask, why do some people heal and some people don't? And really, what is the intent of my adjustment? When I'm adjusting someone, I want to clear out the interference from the brain-body communication so that the life force that is always flowing, it's running all your organs as we're sitting here. We're not doing it. Can you imagine if we had to consciously work all our organs as we're sitting here having a conversation? We couldn't do it. So your body's doing it, right? But why is it symptomatic, not working properly? What's going on? Maybe it is working properly, but sometimes if it becomes a chronic state of symptoms, what's your body trying to tell you? So I would say, what's blocking that life force from flowing? I could adjust you, but it's really about keeping the life force flowing. And that, I don't think a lot of people correlate the life force flowing in your body is connected to the happiness, the state of happiness that you're living in. When you're joyful or excited or inspired, when you're inspired, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Right? It's like you're alive. You can feel the adrenaline. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Right?
Yes.
Think about when you're stressed or you don't want to go to do something or you're dreading something or you're anxious, right? How do you feel? You just get smaller, right? Your shoulders go down, right? Versus when you're inspired, you pop up. That's not a metaphor. That's real. That's what's going on within your body. So if you make your happiness the more normal state, you can get through the challenges or being anxious or being challenged or being fearful. That'll flow in and out. That's part of life. The problem is our society has trained us to live in that fear state. That they think that we think that's normal. Creating security, the so-called security, creating all these things that are safety nets, that they're killing us. They're dimming our life force. We're here to live our dreams. So to follow our passions, to follow that we should have joy in our lives. That's so important. And we put that on the back burner.
And I don't know if it's back burner, but we're always striving for the happiness, but when we are happy, we don't take time to enjoy it.
We're on to the next thing.
Right. Exactly. Hey, you go out and hey, you finished it. Great. Blah, blah, blah. What's next? And I'm guilty of it. And my clients I've got a couple different sets of clients. I have clients that are bucket listers. So I'm an endurance coach. If you haven't read it, but I'm an endurance coach. So I get people to marathons, ultra marathons, Ironmans, that type of big, giant, challenge stuff like that. And I've always got sets of clients that run through my roster that are bucket listers. They want to do their first marathon. They want to do their first Ironman. They want to do their first half Ironman. They want to do a 5K for the first time. You know what I mean? Little things like that. And they get there and they clock it off the bucket list, and then they're off the roster and they go on to whatever else they want to do in their lives. That's fine. And I think they might actually have a better idea than my habitual racers. So I've got people that have been on my roster 4, 5, 6 years because it's race after race. And I'm like that way as well. We actually call it the Ironman blues. So you train for a year for an Ironman. The first one you train for a year, and you get there and you cross the finish line. And then you're like, oh. And I remember my first one, I was like, okay, bucket list, it's done. I'll do the shorter stuff, but I don't want to do the bigger ones anyway. That was so we finished it on Saturday. Sunday morning, you're sore, you're feeling it. You're still feeling that, a little bit of that euphoria that you did this big thing, you crossed the line, you finished your goal, you did what you set out to do, and you're still feeling it, and you're still like, okay, bucket list, fine. Monday comes around, you get home, you travel on Sunday, get home on Monday, and you're still like cleaning stuff up, you're still reveling in it a little bit, but things are starting to wind down, and then now you've gone 2 days, and you're like, bucket list. And then all of a sudden Tuesday morning you wake up and the alarm doesn't go off because you don't need to get up because you're done. You don't have to train. So you don't wake up. And now all of a sudden by Wednesday, you're like, I got no purpose. You get what we call the Ironman blues. So all of a sudden by Wednesday, you're like looking for another race. But more should be happening is we should be extending that happiness and enjoying the recovery and enjoying it and just reveling in it and feeling like, hey, it's not that I don't have a purpose. But take the time to celebrate that. And I don't think a lot of people do.
No, I think it's about getting in touch with the peaceful side of life too. Just the little joys of, excuse me, having time to wake up because you don't have an alarm clock in the morning. Enjoying your coffee or tea in the morning and just seeing the sun come up, or that the sun is up, but you could take a walk, or like little things like that. To appreciate those small joys in life too. I think that's part of it.
So, all right. So you spent 18 years as a practicing chiropractor, right? So, and you did a little traveling during that time or afterwards?
Yeah, I did. I went on a couple mission trips with other chiropractors. We brought chiropractic to Brazil and India. And it was just really cool because it really showed me the energetic side of it, the spiritual side of it. We really tapped into, it's hard to find words really to describe, but we would bring chiropractic there. They didn't speak the language. We had interpreters, but people would just line up and we would just be adjusting people all day, just palpating the spine, adjusting it. So it was just this huge energy that we were working with, and the vibration became very high. And this was part of me finding that bliss state within, because I had that experience with people, the endorphins that people feel like after they ran the marathon that you were talking about. We had those highs after adjusting people, right? It was like we were just high on life. It was just this bliss vibe. And when I came back home, I just felt depression, like I just crashed because I couldn't maintain that high that we felt by working on all these people in the zone. It was just this high vibe, and it wasn't there in normal life. But it ended up becoming that for me in normal life. I ended up going into a bliss state, and it lasted for about 18 months. And I realized, I'm like, oh, this is the high that everybody's looking for, from running the marathon, right? From being in the zone of adjusting people, from people who drink, people who take the drugs, right? That they want to find that high. I'm like, oh, because this is our natural state. This societal matrix has dumbed us down so much that we think this stress and fear is normal. But no, the search is because we know within us is this bliss state. We know it innately. I think we all do. We're all searching for it. But until you get to that place where you feel it within, you're always attaching it to an outside source. And the only I can equate it to is when you fall in love, you think about that person, you can't want to be with that person. Well, it happened to me. I was in love, but there was no other person. I was just in love with life, myself. I was just blissed out. And that's where I realized, I'm like, okay, how did I get here? How do I maintain this? What is this? And that really has probably been my journey for the last 20 years. Just connecting the dots on how do we create this in our everyday life, this bliss state, or how do we live? This is our normal state. How do we allow it in our everyday life, moment to moment? That's the practice.
That's profound. And you're saying that you were living in that bliss state based on continuing to think about what you went through in Brazil and India?
No, I didn't have to do anything. I was just there. That's the thing. I didn't have to try. I was just in this state. It's like an awakening. And it just lasted for about 18 months. And then I realized I wanted to create in my life the freedom that I felt within. I wanted to now build my life based on this vibe. Before we had goals and things, but you're doing it from a place of lack. You got to get something to feel better. Now I just felt great. So now I want my outside to match the inside here. So it reoriented my journey a little bit. And I'm like, how do I stay in this state and build my life? So it's following the guidance, allowing the darkness to come up when it has to come up, to release, not being afraid of it. It's following your inner voice moment to moment. What do I really want to be doing? Following your intuition. What's the next right action step to take? What is my next goal, if there's a goal? Can I just appreciate this moment and the beauty in it? It's all right. That's the orientation that you're looking at life through.
So I think the biggest one that you mentioned, and it really hit me real quick, is that allowing the darkness to come up and feel it so you can release it. Can you give us kind of an example? It doesn't have to be from your own life. It could be from somebody else's. But can you give us an example of what somebody might be pushing down and then what it might look like for them to let it go?
Yeah, I have a great one from my own life, because I had my bliss state. It was around 2001. And then I had my son in 2006. And after I had him, I really went into kind of a dark night of the soul. Just everything was hitting me. And it wasn't about baby. I think it was all my childhood stuff that I didn't deal with, because I realized what was done to me, I would never do to my child. Like the way I was taught to look at life, all the stress I was under, all this crap that I was even felt too guilty to admit before. But now I was looking at my son. I'm like, I'll never let that happen to him. But it was coming up for me at such a pace. Like the things that would inspire me to read or listen to weren't working. They weren't helping me get in my bliss state. I just felt all this darkness, but I wasn't afraid of it. Like I knew what it was. And I knew at that point, because I had the gray state, that was my normal. So I knew stuff was coming up for me to heal. I just didn't know what to do with it or how to shift myself. But I waited for the guidance. I remember reading, I think it was Jack Canfield's book. He talked about, it was like The Laws of Success or something, but that book wasn't even hitting me at the time. I had it, but it was something that he mentioned. He said, there's the Sedona method to help release the darkness that you can't let go of. And I ordered that course right away. It was like CDs and a book at the time and a work. And I remember investing in this course. It was the Sedona method by Hal Dwoskin. And I remember doing it for a few minutes, 20 minutes every day for 6 months. And all he would do is ask you questions. Can you allow this to come up right now? Can you feel this right now? Are you okay to just be with it right now? Can you let it go just for now? Just simple questions. And I would do that every day. And it started to help. But I mean, I did it consistently for about 6 months, I remember, until I felt, oh, okay. Now I'm back to my happy self. Now I can listen to my inspirational stuff again. It moves me again. But I thought, how key is that? People, we need, because I think a lot of people get stuck because they're afraid to feel the dark feelings because they think they're going to overtake them. But they have to come up. If you really want to be clear and become who you need to be, they're there to, I don't know if you want to say teach you something, or there's an awareness that comes from being in the darkness so you can really understand the light. If they're not bad, that's how we create as humans. We need the contrast. So we can't avoid the darkness, but it's just that we've been living in so much of it that I think we feel strangled by it. So there's something like that. It was so simple to sit with every day, and it helped so much.
I think what you were talking about, so you said that we live in it every day, but I think that's like more external, the stuff we live through right now. I think it's a lot of external where people don't really understand that what the difference is between this external darkness that we're going through. Like right now, we're looking at anti-Semitism and racism and all the stuff going on with the Middle East and what our stimulus is right now with the mainstream media and everything else. Really, if you look at a news show right now, it's 6 negative stories for every positive story. 10 negative stories for every positive. So that's like always external. People don't understand that there's stuff like you said about your that you lived through your childhood that you needed to release. You need to let that go. And I don't think people understand that it's okay. I think it's the same thing personally. And I've tried to instill this is, you know what? There's times when you feel sad, but people, especially guys, you guys don't cry, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it's got to be like, you need to let yourself feel those feelings. If you're scared, you can't be scared of being scared. You need to let yourself feel the fear so you can learn from it and then be brave. Because what is bravery? Bravery is courage in spite of fear. So we need to allow ourselves to feel it. It's okay to feel it, but let yourself feel it. Because if you let yourself feel it, it'll go. If you're afraid to feel it, it stays with you. And I think that's what you're talking about, taking the darkness and allowing it to release. Am I on the right track?
Yeah. Right on track.
Perfect. If you're angry, let the anger out. Now, I just think that there's creative ways of going about it. And that's, I think, where some people they're stuck at that point. So
yeah, maybe they don't know how to let go with it. You can find a good therapist. You can find someone you can talk to. Like I did the course, something like that. I know that book is available online, I'm sure. Just you have to find. That's the thing. People need to get in tune with themselves. It's important to listen to what resonates with you. And I don't know if people are always aware of that. Cool. I'm very right in tune with myself. Like I know when I'm supposed to read a book or not. Like I could feel it right away. It jumps out at me. Like I got to get that. Or I'll see another one. I'm like, nope, it's not for me. That's just an example. But I'm pretty in tune because I've followed it for a while now. Yeah, just like it took me to chiropractic school, that call. So when people are, do it with small things. Just, are you moved to watch this program or listen to this podcast or video? Like just do it with small things first and see how it feels. Because the more you listen to that inner voice, you're going to be guided to what you need and what's going to work for you. And you know, what works for you now may not work for you in a few years. You evolve out of it. And it's okay to learn to let it go too when you need to move on to the next thing. So I think there's different tools at different stages in your life too.
Here's a good question, because you had mentioned intuition before, was to follow your intuition. Did you find that your intuition was more correct when you're in that bliss state? You were like, found yourself to be like right on, as far as your intuition goes, versus maybe that when you had some darkness and stuff that you needed to release. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I find when I'm in the bliss state, things happen faster. It's more of a synchronistic flow. There's more motion. When I'm in the darkness, I still hear the voice, but things just move slower for me. But I do feel like my inner voice is pretty strong still.
Yeah. A quick, this has recently happened. A friend of mine was going to go to this retreat in Colorado. And before she left, she was telling me, she was like, there's something going on. I feel like this might be not the right move. And of course, I'm just like, oh, you're just scared. You haven't been in there before. You're going to try to do an experience. You're just feeling like you're just a little bit, you got cold feet. She goes, I just feel like something's going on. I'm like, no, you're fine. Just go ahead, knock it out. I was like, grab the bull by the horns, all the whole bits, trying to just get her to go. And she went. And it turns out that there was some issues with the staff and the people that were in retreat. And there was like a lot of unethical, we're just going to call it that, some unethical practices were going on. And she wasn't able to do anything about it. And it really freaked her out while she was there. And she comes back and she's, I knew it. She goes, I knew it. I should just listen to myself. And I was apologetic. I was like, I am sorry. I think, yes, you should listen to your intuition. Now, the thing is prior to the retreat, she was cleaning herself out. So she had gotten super clean. She'd gone through a water fast. She was linking. So she was getting into that bliss state, at least externally, right? So I think that her intuition was like more in a flow state. So she was right. Versus sometimes people, they think they confuse fear with intuition when they're not in this bliss state that you're talking about.
Sure. But you know what? It's with practice. So now she didn't listen. She went, but that's okay. It's not bad. But guess what? Now she has more gumption to follow her inner voice when it comes up next time. So,
Exactly.
I mean, everything is a learning curve in the sense of that, but it's a practice. It's like you get to the point where you know that, and you don't have to even question. You don't have to tell anybody. You're like, now I know that I know I don't need to do that. Like you get to that place, but until you get to that place, you're building that muscle. So it's all good.
Oh, okay. I get it. It's conscious competence, right? It's you need to practice what you know, right? So you can get to unconscious competence where it just happens.
That's right.
Nice.
I love that term. Actually,
yeah, it's something that I talk to my cross-country kids about. I'm like, hey, listen, you're just getting started, blah, blah, blah. You're building your fitness, but there's things that you need to learn. And there's 4 states to learning. You have unconscious incompetence, meaning that you don't know what you don't know. Then there's conscious incompetence. Now you know what you don't know, and you got to start practicing it. Then there's a state where, so if we're teaching technique, then there's conscious competence. I can do it right when I think about it. The minute I stop thinking about it, I'll go back to old habits. But when I think about it, I can be right on the nose with that technique. And then when they get to unconscious competence, now they can do it without thinking about it. Now when they run or they're doing this technique, or if they're in the weight room and they're working on that one move that they've done thousands of times, and then now they're going to be perfect form because it's unconscious competence, muscle memory. I see where you're going with that. That makes perfect sense. We have to practice that blissful state.
can I tell you now it's unconscious competence for me now to look for my bliss. Now I realize if I'm not in a peaceful, and I'm not saying I have to be wigged out happy, just peaceful, right?
Right.
In my zone, going about my day. Am I even doing my little to-do list easily, or am I pushing through? I can feel the difference. And my normal is to be in a happy state, to find my next thing. And when I'm not, I'm able to check in real quick before I have to get down into the symptomatic, got sick, stressed out, everything's going wrong. I don't have to go that extreme anymore for me to pay attention. So if you just pay attention to just when you feel off in the moment, you can realign yourself where you know what you have to do to get back on track. Even if it's just to rest in the moment, to give yourself a breather, then things become more clear and you even become more productive because you got centered first. So that's that moment to moment. That should be our normal state of being.
What's your go-to? You start to feel a little off. What does Dr. Lynn Carey do right immediately when you start to feel off?
Mine is to definitely just stop. I stop when I can, or take the breather. I might not be able to do it always in the moment if I'm in the middle of something, but as soon as I know I need to, when I'm done what task or whatever I'm doing, I need to stop. I need to just regroup. And I can just be for a little bit. And then usually I can recenter myself. Just whether I relax for the night, or if I sit and have a cup of coffee and just chill for a little bit, it's usually I have to just stop. Because I'm wired to get things done and to have to be held accountable. These people who have to be held accountable, that cracks me up. I'm like, I don't know how to rest until I get everything done. So for me, I'd learn to stop before I get everything done and check in with myself. And then I'll continue. So that's usually my practice. But it's usually just stopping and resting. See, that wasn't allowed when I was growing up. You know what I mean? That wasn't really looked high upon. It was getting things done was where I got the praise. So I had to learn to make it. I praise myself now. Okay, look, you're taking it easier on yourself right now. Good for you.
Makes sense. Yeah. And everybody could have something different.
That's right.
My thing is that I think that we're looking for all this external right now to find that bliss. And, obviously social media, right? You put out a post. Now you're going back the kids at least, they go back and they're like, oh, wait, who liked it? Who wrote comments? Who did this? Who did that? And when every like, they get a little dopamine hit. Oh, that's bliss. It's not a steady state of you just being peace within yourself. It's a dopamine hit. That's what social media has come to right now. People don't even realize that. Some people get their anger out and they get a shot of dopamine when somebody replies to them to say they agree. Now they get a dopamine hit. Oh, that's bliss. No, it's not.
I remember the last year in chiropractic school, I had found purpose with chiropractic, which also was an awakening for me. I'm like, oh, at least I like what I do. I really believe in, look how it changed my life. I want to change other people's lives. That was a big high for me. But I was very stressed out with the schoolwork and taking the state boards and the national boards and all this stuff. And I thought, okay, so I am a chiropractor. When will I be happy? What is happiness? I really started questioning what is happiness. And it wasn't until about 3 years later until I went into that bliss state where I'm like, oh, this is what everybody's looking for. So you can't be hard on yourself. You just ask the question, then do what comes up until you have you can't force the awakening. I can't make you have that feeling. It has to come on organically within you. But if you are open to just asking the question, I believe you're shown what happiness is, like that peace. You're peaceful. You're not searching for the outside. It's the inside, and then you can create your heaven on earth because it's coming organically. There's that's a difference, right? Like we have this keep it up with the Joneses. We got to get the right job, the marriage, the house, the kids. They're all external. It's not that they're bad, but if they're coming from a place of, I'm going to be happy then when I get them versus let me find happiness. And now that I'm happy, let me create my life. I think it's two different orientations, but it's just about starting to ask those questions. What does true happiness look like for myself?
That is a great question. And even I can't answer that. I don't think I can still answer that. I'm a couple years older than you, but I still can't answer that question. What does true happiness look like? But I'm willing to search and find it. And I think that's the whole thing, is allowing yourself to try new things and find out where that happiness is. And that's, yeah. And it might even come from things that you're not quite attracted to. Like, I'm not attracted to breath work and I've never tried it. But maybe if I did try it, maybe it would open up something that would allow me to find, all right, what does my true happiness look like? And I guess, yeah, I just came off of a 2-week Mediterranean cruise. So yeah, I just got back last Sunday and I was nothing. Of course, electronics and Wi-Fi sucks on a freaking boat and then the whole bit. So you're forced to detox, the digital detox. You can't do anything. And so it's like you got to travel, and I've got so many pictures of landscape, pictures of water and castles and stuff. And you know what? If I think about it, that's where I was always smiling. I was always like, I was just in the moment, taking in these views of this blue water with this wonderful architecture that I've never seen before, except in pictures. And here I am in the same place. I did the old picture with me put my hand here and holding up the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I did that whole thing, and that was fun. That was a blast. Now that I think about it, I think that's a stepping in the right direction, because I'd never done that before. But we were on this, it was an amazing trip. I suggest anybody gets a chance to do these Mediterranean. We were in like 9 different ports, and it was really incredible. But I can see that now that I think about it. When I'm didn't think about work, didn't think about money, didn't think about what was going on at home, didn't think about when I was just in the moment, just enjoying what was around me and not thinking about anything else.
Can I give you this is what came to me when you were saying this, because that cruise sounds fantastic. It sounds amazing. And I don't, not to belittle that at all, but I'm saying you can take that. You've just taken those landscape pictures, right? Blissed out, like in the moment, and do it just around your neighborhood and start to look at things around your neighborhood. Not that you're not going to think about your daily and your money and the job and all this stuff. You're going to think about that. But there's going to be moments where you can just take 5 minutes and say, did I ever notice those flowers? Because that happens to me naturally now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I'm like, it's there. It's there all the time. That grace is there. Huh. It doesn't have to be hard, but just taking those 5 minutes and saying, let me appreciate what's in my, I took that for granted all the time. Look at those beautiful flowers, or look at that little animal that's in the yard, or something that and just be there for a second. That's it. That's the same state you were in that meditative cruise.
You know what? I am going to do that. I am definitely going to. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to take your advice on that, Doc. Just getting back. So you said, so you opened up your practice in 2001, did you say?
1998.
1998, you opened up your practice. So 2008, and so to 2018? No, not 2018.
2016.
2016. Did you close it? Did you sell it? Did you continue?
Yeah, and I moved to Miami because that was my dream.
Miami
Beach, and build my network marketing business with Arbonne. That was my dream because I was building it anyway on the side.
Right.
But my passion was, I thought that this is a vehicle where people could really work on healthy habits, mindset, and finance.
Oh, no.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I just was building my network marketing business. I just loved the vehicle I knew it was the vehicle where people could do the inner work to create healthy habits, mindset, and financial freedom to really create their desired life. It was just a great blueprint. And then you can branch off from there and build whatever you want in life. And that's what I've been focused on.
I saw that. So I think did this air? Okay. Well, that's fine. We can just pick up where we left. Okay.
Yeah. So
let's go back. So you said you moved to Miami.
Rich dad, poor dad. But the same thing, it's just like chiropractic. You could have two different experiences with two different chiropractors. And I feel like that with any profession. And that's what happens with the network marketing profession. I feel like you have to find your people, your company. It's the same thing with you got to search it out because there's good and bad in every profession. And that's what I've come to realize.
I've heard both sides of the story as far as network marketing goes. People feel it's a scam, and then some people made a lot of money from it. Well, what's his name? Buffett. He said, Warren Buffett said, if he ever had to do it again, he'd go back and he'd build a network marketing business.
Yep. Wrote it in 2020.
Robert Kiyosaki said the same thing.
I'm reading a book, but whenever
because you just keep it because it's residual income.
Really
Anyway, but that's
I didn't like what was happening.
I
knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't about health. It was about us losing our freedom. So I thought there's so much fear mongering going on right now that if I could share my inspirational story of how we heal, I thought maybe the world needs to hear a positive, inspirational story more than ever. I just wasn't finished writing my story. I was still building the financial freedom part for myself.
Fantastic. Excellent.
Maybe I would
so
later.
You wrote My Journey to Grace.
So down from and I just thought it's time to share. So I just wrote it and I just followed it. I'm always following things blindly. I just figured out how to self-publish and do it. But I wrote it because of that I just felt like it was the time. That 2020 really derailed me, what I was doing. And I just thought it's time to speak up and share my story. Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. With it, right?
I think that's great. Don't get me wrong. We had a lot of books that came out of 2020 because people were sitting at home. And some people, I feel like there was three types of people. People went into a depression. People that just said, well, I'm home and I don't have a job or I'm not able to do my job or whatever. So I'm going to get super fit. And then there's people that wanted to learn something and be productive. So yeah, the people that be productive, learn something, write books and the whole bit. So there's a lot of great stuff that came out of 2020. People that took it as I wouldn't say it was positive, but as a time when they, a time for them to get something done that they weren't, no, a lot of times they didn't wallow in it, which was, it was great. Because that is a big year for me too, because I actually was out of work at the same time. I wasn't able, I had just finished up a contract as the pandemic started. So I couldn't get another contract. So, but so I was able to, I learned.
Post little blurbs on there more about how to live your best life. It's just Dr. Lynn Carey, and also on Instagram.
But you wrote a book.
I try to stay pretty
and
current
that
on there
book,
too.
Again, My Journey to Grace, Shattering Mainstream Illusions and Creating My Desired Life, is on Amazon by Dr. Lynn Carey. And I'm going to put
Oh, yeah. It looks like it's legit, not a spam.
show notes. She also has a website, creatingmydesiredlife.com, and where you can find more about the book and about her. And we'll also link that in the show notes. Great. And as far as the Instagram goes, do you mind people sliding into your DMs, and do you pay attention?
I love talking with you, Brad. Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah. Legit. Right. Exactly. Okay, good. Because a lot of my audience said, like, hey, if I have a question about something, and people love to slide into the DMs and want to ask a question. Great. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. It's Dr. Lynn Carey, My Journey to Grace. Get the book, read it. I'm going to read it. And also, if you want to check her out on Instagram and on YouTube at Dr. Lynn Carey, and it sounds like she's got a great following. And so go ahead and check her out. And thank you. Thank you so much. This was very enlightening. This is probably got to be one of my favorite episodes ever. I appreciate it. And for the rest of you, hey, don't forget, make sure that you review on any of the platforms. Go see Dr. Lynn Carey at her YouTube and drop her a like and a follow. And we will see you in the next one. Well, that wraps up another episode of Life-Changing Challengers. I'm your host, Brad Minus, saying thank you for joining us on this journey of transformation. If today's stories inspired you, please take a moment to review, share, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more listeners and create an even bigger impact. Remember, every challenge is a chance to grow. Until next time, keep pushing, keep challenging, and never stop pursuing your extraordinary.